Welcome to the 293 Code Podcast. Today's episode is rejection. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So what do rejection look like for you? For most people, it's going to look different in different ways, different forms, different techniques.
Explain it.
Okay, so like for one, rejection from your family, rejection from your friends, rejection from relationships, rejections from your job. So the thing of it is that when you hear the word rejection, we always think in a negative matter, right?
That's true.
But sometimes you have people where they look at rejection as a way of positivity, motivation, determination. So it's like sometimes we have to sit back and reflect on how the rejection is going to affect us as we go on in life. Meaning, is we going to let it get us down? Will it put us in a depressed state? Or will it motivate us to be able to prove everybody wrong or prove yourself that you're better than what people portray you to be? So let me ask you this question. How do you look at rejection?
It can be a positive and negative for me.
Okay, in what way?
If I get rejected for like a project, that's a positive. That makes me want to grind more. If I get rejected talking to somebody, right?
Right.
That's a negative, but then then it turns out to be a positive because then they may be crazy.
That is true. That is true.
Which is true. So, I mean, it has so many meanings. Like, as a child, when you get rejected and you told no, it's a negative feeling, right?
Right.
The first time your parents tell you no, it's just like, how could you tell me no?
But I think also in the key fact, when you think about childhood, you got to look at this situation of how that child is being brought up. Is it a child that's coming from struggle? A child that's coming from where they're being spoiled and like, no, it's not in the vocabulary until they hear it for the first time?
No, I think any child, though, if you think about it, because when they first start off and they get older, they start getting to that point where they're walking and crawling. You tell a baby no, and look at their face.
Well, yeah, that's the beginning stages. But look, there's that 1% where you get kids, you tell them no, and they look at you like, I'm about to do it again.
Ugh,
You got those out there where no still means nothing to them.
I got a grandchild like that.
See what I'm saying? So it's like when they hear the word no, they use that as motivation. Like, I'm still gonna be bad. Now what? They're like little Chucky
Yeah, I gotta tell them no. Then I gotta follow up.
on the no.
I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Because you know what the thing of it is that some kids, they look at no as a challenge.
Yeah.
You be like, when you tell a child, be like, don't you go in that refrigerator, and they looking like, what you gonna do about it? You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
No is like a different type of, power for them where they're gonna be like, I'm gonna test you because kids watch what parents do if they're no longer consistent.
Okay.
You can't be, parenting your child and be in the jump rope method. Sometimes you want to jump, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you double dutch, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like you going back and forth. It's a double dutch stage, So the thing of it is, when it comes to stuff like that, we learn no at an early stage, but it depends on how no is implicated into what the person of the higher authority is saying to you. And it gravitates into adulthood. How do we look at the word no and rejection?
I think in our era, no was always like, if you look at it, a lot of people were told no in our era. Like, no, you can't
Right.
do that. No, put that shit down. No, I will not date you. No,
Yeah.
you can't eat that. No, so we got used to that rejection. It was like, oh, okay, well then move on. Now, the younger generation, when they get told no, it's and they have to deal with that rejection. Emotionally, they're not regulated. I feel like
No, you're right.
seen like a lot of stories, news stories where like a guy will make a pass at a woman or a young girl and they'll tell him no. And it's hard to deal with that. Prime example was Chicago. A young girl told a young boy no. He came back and shot her and killed her.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's sad because, that's why they got all these reality shows out right now. People watch them and stuff. But it's like, hey, these are life lessons and signs that you need to look at because people do not know how to handle rejection now. And you absolutely right. In our generation, No was like in the vocabulary. But back then we looked at it like, well, you told me no, but I'm gonna find a way to get it anyway. So it was that's how the word hustle got created. We hustle to get it. You know what I'm saying? If somebody told us no, they're looking at it like, what you gonna do about it to go get it?
But I think the younger kids take that too far. I remember, my uncle saying if someone tells you no, you know, you want to get more no's than yes, right? And
Absolutely.
you figure out, like, keep grinding, keep grinding. Now you tell these young kids, well, you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And they're like, well, shit, I'm going to just take it.
Yep.
You see the difference? Like, they just, I don't know if they can comprehend, or maybe we got to dumb it down and explain to them when we mean, you're going to get a lot of no's before you get to yes. Instead of just like, I'm going to go steal that shit. I'm going to take it. It's mine. Grimy. Like that type of.
But also, just like what I said earlier, some kids develop that at an early age. They will test their parents, and it starts in the toddler stage and it progress. You know what I'm saying? When parents tell kids no, and like when kids be like, okay, well, I know I'm about to be in trouble, but they know their parents ain't gonna do nothing besides yell at them or whatever. They continue to stay in that mode.
Because parents now these days are not consistent.
But a lot of parents are mentally drained.
That too, being a single parent, and that's another thing, is being a single parent and working. And we live in America where working around the clock, you have to work around the clock, or two jobs, or three, or maybe four, just to survive, right?
Right.
Food is at its all time high. I mean, gas is at its all time high. Cost is at its all time high. And we're trying to figure out how to rob from Peter to steal from Paul. Is that the
And you know what? And it's kind of like that.
or rob from Peter? One of the two.
One of the two, it's going to interact regardless, right? But the thing of it is, the other difference is with our generation, right, and how things are now, is that for a lot of us growing up, our parents sometimes gave us a definition of the word no, because the bills had to be paid, clothes on your back, lights had to be on. You know what I'm saying? How many times that was a daily routine. You heard that about anything that you asked for. So when we saw our parents struggle but still provided, so we knew the value at $1 at times. Kids these days don't know a value of $1. They just be like, well, mom and dad, you working, so why can't I have it?
Well, you got to still think single parents back then was consistent.
They was consistent. But then, back then too, we also had the accountability of like, hey, our parents showed us how hard work supposed to look, and here's the reward. In some families now, there is no knowledge of teaching the kids of what it takes to get what you want. They just get it.
Well, they're going off of their parents, and that's another thing. There's ups and downs to everything.
Yeah.
So what decade it is. I mean, if you went through the struggle and you're working all this time and you look at your son or your daughter, you don't want them to grow up and doing the same thing you do, right? Because you know how hard it is. But you're not really looking at the piece where, what kind of human did it make you? Morally, value wise, what kind of human did it make you? We're looking at, well, this caused me a lot of trauma. I don't want my kid to go through the trauma. And that's where a lot of parents now these days are getting to that situation. Well, I don't want my kid to struggle like I struggled.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. And especially with like, you got kids out here 15 years old, 16 years old, and their parents buying them Mercedes and, BMWs. Like, if you don't go buy a car out of somebody's yard and make that child learn how to, like, build a car, it's kind of like Build-A-Bear. But you know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be the best car, but then you're going to learn how to maintain it to keep it running. You see what I'm saying? It may have some bald tires. You're going to learn how to change the oil. All that kind of stuff. So you have the responsibility. So, and then at the same time, if your parents say, well, you don't have to worry, I just want you to go to school and nothing else. Okay, fine doing. But at the same time, that child still need to earn things instead of you just saying, well, oh, they're a good kid, so they deserve it, and here they go. What did they do?
Or like, "Oh, they're in school, so that's a lot of work." Work is gonna be work. This is one thing I never understood is your child goes to school, right? Just like you go to work. The difference is what get paid and won't get paid through grades, right?
Right,
You know, the thing is they're like, "Well, it's a lot of work. They have to put in a lot of work, so I don't want them to do any chores. I just want them to focus on school." So you're telling me your child can drive 2 lanes?
right.
Like, so what happens when they become an adult?
They don't know how to accept rejection because they never had to with their parents.
Absolutely.
And that's where it comes in when you go into adulthood. You get people out here that it devastates them to hear the word no. And you think about it, okay, Charity, me and you, we athletes. We come from the athletic world.
Mhm.
We built around sports. Like that was a part of our life. And the thing of it is, just like in the sports world, rejection is hard to take sometimes because, well, number one, it depends on your coach. I'm just put that out there, you know. But I'm gonna talk from it from like the professional level, right? After going from college to the professional level, the thing of it was for me was you had to learn a different role play. So, in college and in high school, we end up having to compete for our position before the season started.
Mhm.
And you had to continue to hold that position in order for you to still be a starter or get your playing time and vice versa. Your numbers was like the go to. But when you get to the professional level, you already built a resume. You become that investment, right?
Mhm.
So when they bring you in and they be like, Charity, here's the facility, here's all this stuff, this is what we expected from you, this is how much you're going to be getting paid a month.
Mhm.
They put that investment on you.
Mhm.
The thing of it is that change, where it's the hardest way to taking it rejection in this professional level, is when you hear that like your time is getting cut short. You either being traded
Yeah.
or another person come in and you feel like, well, dang, I got to fight for my position, but I earned my way to this spot.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So the thing of it as a professional athlete, it gets to you because you look at all the hard work, the time, the effort, and everything you put into it to get to the highest peak.
Mhm.
And then the rejection look totally different because it's just like, hey, we all getting paid, but we getting paid differently. And then you got management over the coaches. So at any given time, if somebody want to make a change when it comes to your playing time, to when it comes to you being traded, it's out of your control. And so the thing of it is, as a professional athlete,
Mhm.
even nowadays, when I see like in other sports, rejection is really hard to take because you don't know how to gather yourself anymore. It's not like when I played college basketball, it was different because it was just like if I had a bad game or whatever like that, coach would be like, hey, what's going on or whatever that. Next game, you got to be able to redeem yourself. Practice, you redeemed yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like somebody was you was still competing to keep your position, but it wasn't so hard to keep your position.
Right.
On a professional level, you have one or two bad games, hey, they already calling up saying, hey, we're going to bring this person in, talking to AJ, hey, you about to get traded. Hey, we're going to reduce your playing time. When you getting reduced playing time, that's cutting into your pay.
Mhm.
That cut into like your livelihood
Mhm.
because you still as an athlete is trying to survive.
Right.
So rejection is so hard because like when you got rejected in youth sports, you got rejected in high school and you a young kid,
Mhm.
what did everybody tell you? Hey, it got taken from you, right? You use that as motivation.
Mhm.
When you get to the professional level, it's a little bit harder. You can it's harder to motivate yourself,
Mhm.
but it's also harder too because as an adult, all you got is you.
Yeah.
Then as an adult being in another country,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So rejection look totally different
Mhm.
from what you used to in the sports world, being like, hey, I just see this as motivation. I'm gonna get back to it. When you're on the professional level, you getting paid, they bringing you in and you supposed to be the star player. It's already a lot of pressure built on top of that.
Mhm.
But then when you're not performing, the expectations of the management, the organization, you looking at it like, man, this rejection look real because like this is my job,
Mhm.
this is what I do, and
Right.
now I got to get bumped and I'm going somewhere else, and then you starting over.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah,
just
you
like,
gotta look at it this way. If you're a star athlete and, like, you're a really good athlete and you start from, let's say elementary all the way up, like you're used to like being on that pedestal, right? You're used to being that number one. Everybody sees you. You know it's addictive. I know it's addictive.
It is.
And then when you get to a high caliber game like professional sports, like I've never played professional sports, but I'm pretty sure when you get to that high caliber game, like there's a business. It's no longer about that star. I mean, you still that star, but can you produce? Right? It's like any CEO, VP of a company. I need you to make sure this shit is running and bringing in the revenue. It's a product.
The thing about being a professional athlete,
Mm-hmm.
it was something I always wanted to do as a kid, and it was like, boom, I'm going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got there. The hard part that nobody ever told me about was the mental part of it, because my mental has always been in the back. You know what I'm saying? When you get to that level,
Mm-hmm.
nobody give a damn about your mental, and mental health wasn't really that, popular and known now where it's become a factor where everybody's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to that point and you realize all the pressure and everything that's been invested into you, and you become that person of like, well, damn, I can't let nobody down. And then you realize, like, from the organization and from the management and from the coaches and stuff, you're not allowed to have a bad game. That is no such thing, even from the fans. And you know what? Like, I look at sports totally different, because the thing of it is, even like with basketball, I hardly ever watch it. Now, I love the game of basketball. It got me to where I got to be able to go across the world, see new things, exploring stuff. But actually sitting there physically watching it, there's a piece of me where it's just like I'm disconnected from it, because I know the back ends of being that professional athlete and what it comes with. So the thing of it is, rejection is hard. But like when I see them females or the guys out there missing shots and they having a bad game, and you watch ESPN and you see the analysts and everybody talking negative about that player, we forget that they're also human.
Yeah.
We think robotically. We all do it unconsciously. Even when, like, on Sunday night football or whatever, when we watch it, like, oh man, they could have made. You know what I'm saying? You getting rejected on so many different levels. Like, you get a lot of athletes that be like, hey, I don't even watch ESPN or anything when they in the season, because you got to hear the rejection and the negativity when people say, oh, they should be traded, this and that. But nobody, unless you actually been on that level, like, and been rejected in so many different ways, they won't get it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I feel like the game has changed. I mean, especially since women basketball has been like a top seller for some of these top CEOs
True.
and VP, it's changed. Because remember back then, even when WNBA started, it wasn't nothing like that.
It was nothing like,
We knew things were going to be consistent, right?
right.
So now I feel like the consistency, like they don't see you, like you said, they don't see you as an athlete. They see you as a product.
That's what you
So
become.
the rejection, probably like I said, when you get to that level, because you're used to everybody saying yes, yes, yes as you're a star player,
Yep.
and then you get to that level, and the rejection is a little bit harder. You start finding out, oh, you struggle with your mental more than the norm.
Yeah.
So rejection is, all across the board difficult for star athletes. I feel like.
It really is, because you know what? I'm gonna be real with you. Like, when I started playing the middle school basketball, right? First time I ever played organized basketball was 7th grade in middle school. And my first year, I was horrible. And it was because it was mostly stage fright. I didn't like playing in front of a bunch of people. I've never done it before, because I didn't grow up playing organized sports. I always played in the backyard, you know? And, everybody knew I could play the game. 7th grade year, horrible. 8th grade year, boom, I'm breaking records. I'm breaking records.
What do you mean you did horrible?
I did horrible my 7th grade year because I had to get used to playing in front of a crowd.
Explain that.
Well, first of all, when you got your family members there, like, you shoot the ball, you better than that. You know what I'm saying? It was more of a stage fright.
Yeah.
I never played, or what I'm saying is, like, the game, or, but I was also in my head, because I was like, instead of taking open shots, I'm passing the ball. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be a team player, but I'm the best one out there. because I play all the time. You see what I'm saying? But I never play organized sports where I showboated. I was never that player to showboat or anything. So everybody getting on me because they know what I can do and I'm not doing it. That's what I mean by I was playing horrible. You know what I'm saying? Now, I got my points. Don't get it wrong. But then I get to a certain point like, oh, I already done scored 18 points. I don't need to shoot no more. Stuff like that. Well, my coach mad. Yeah, I was that kind of player. So I had to learn how to be like, hey, in order for you to help your team win, we need you to shoot the ball. Like, quit passing it to everybody else. And some people wasn't even coordinated. You know what I'm saying? So then once I got that established, I was cool because, like, they wanted me to play varsity in high school. And then the school had a whole thing. Principal was like, no, Boone, you just need to play here. But I did go during the summer and went to varsity camp with the high school. So it was like, I was that person. You know what I'm saying? But the thing of it is that, like, I tried to make sure I shared it with everybody. And so everybody be like, you need to be more aggressive, just take over. That was never me. But then I had to learn it, right? Then, you know, because I still want to be, hey, I want to win. I'm going to get my points, but I want to be behind the scene. And I couldn't do that. Nobody allowed me to do that.
See, yeah, you started a little late because even in high school, like middle school, they do that too. Because I started way before, like I was in elementary playing.
Yes, you know, things was back then in the South or whatever. We didn't have nothing free. So it was just like, but look now, but running games like in the yard, beast mode, real talk. You know what I'm saying? So like everybody knew what I could do. I mean, I'm out there killing the boys, straight up. I mean, because that's all I played with was the boys. So like playing against the girls to me was not hard.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing of it is, I would dumb down my play to try to, you know, blend in because I didn't want to be the outstanding person. And everybody was like, nah, that ain't going to work. Do what you do, you know, because everybody knew what I could do. So, but my 8th grade year, I just came out there and I did what I needed to do. And then it was just like, boom. After that, everything blew up all the way throughout high school, going into college and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember those days.
But it just like rejection was hard and you had to learn it on so many different levels.
You do. You have to learn it on so many levels. Even as a parent, damn, you know, you gotta learn it on that level.
But I'm going to tell you the other thing that kind of messed you up as an athlete, though, is like when you've been an athlete, right? And then you try to get into a relationship, then you got to learn how to accept rejection in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because you think like, you know, you could be with a person and you think everything is good and everything's going right and you can have conversations and all that kind of stuff or whatever, right? But then the thing of it is that when the other person is thinking you rejecting them, you know what I'm saying? Because it go both ways. Either you getting rejected or they think they being rejected. You know what I'm saying? Because you come from 2 different avenues. How do people cope with that? Because that look different too. And that's when people end up on Snap or Wives with Knives and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying though. So you don't be watching enough of them thriller shows and stuff to keep up with that.
I watch thriller shows, but
I'm telling you.
I think in real life, I've seen it done. I've seen it done in real life. And that's what scares me.
And that's the thing, because you know what? You really have to go back to like previous podcasts that we had where we was talking about, you know, when you talking to a person, no matter, you could be like, oh, we known each other since we was yay high. That don't mean nothing. Because one of y'all can end up being like, you know, on Snap. And that has happened because people be like, well, oh, we grew up and all this other stuff. Yeah, but you know what? Little Johnny may live 3 blocks down and y'all play hopscotch together or whatever, or Xbox or whatever it may be, but you still don't know little Johnny.
Well, you don't know him on an intimate level. You know him on a friendship level. And then, especially when you're young in high school, the love is different.
It's different.
The vibe is different. You know what I'm saying? So we're trying to figure out what love is. And so when you get hurt in your relationship, it's like, oh, bitch.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. I've seen, like, I have friends that dealt with crazy relationships, and that part where I was just like, nah, fuck that.
But see, also that's where DV come from too. You know, you get husband and wife in a relationship, the wife be crazy or whatever, and be like, well, you ain't gonna leave me, and then they locking each other up in the bathroom or whatnot, or, you know, threatening each other with knives, all kind of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? But see, that's when relationship, you know what I'm gonna say, go from sugar to shit. So you really got to be able to know somebody mental level and what's going to rise them with that, because sometimes, you know what, just like this though, you've been in a relationship for a minute and then like that's all you know is each other. So they're going to be like, where you think you going? You ain't leaving me. And so most people be like, I'm going to take you out. I had a classmate who died under that same situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's real. But then people don't really know, like I said, people really don't know what goes on behind closed doors, because people now, especially like this day and age, people sometimes don't have people to talk to. And sometimes you got to think about it. When you know you with the wrong person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you may not have that friend that you can just be open and vulnerable with, you're going to always feel like when you're around that person and they know that the person that you with ain't about anything, what you going to do? You're only going to tell them the good stuff about a person, because you don't want your friends to only think of the negative stuff. So then you try to deflect them away from the negativity. So you got to have friends that's going to tell you straight up, hey, that motherfucker ain't shit. You can do better. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, for real, though. Like, I mean, because how can you call each other friends if you can't hear what they're saying? Because you're going to see their comments as rejection. So you're going to feel like this person over here, you got to protect, even though you know you about to go home and be mad all day.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Now, at the end of the day, we know everybody all grown. You're going to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But as real friends, you should be able to tell your friend, you know that motherfucker ain't shit. Ain't going to never be shit. You can do better. But you know what? Hey, we friends. You got to be over there in that. But just let you know, we know what's going on. We'll support you as a friend, but we don't support the behavior.
Right.
We don't support the relationship. But like at the end of the day, you a grown adult. I'm just saying though. But a lot of times, sometimes you got to ask people about their childhood, because that'll tell you a lot about people too.
Absolutely.
On how they are as an adult. Because at the end of the day, especially like, when we think about it, we all have mental problems. Some people mental problems are higher than others. Some of us is on medication to maintain it. You know what I'm saying? But the one key thing about it is you could tell a lot about a person in their childhood, because we carry around the inner child with us every day.
When they start talking and, certain stuff starts coming out, you're like, oh, shit.
Yep. You be like, this motherfucker right here. For real though, you got to really get to know a person. That's why I feel like when people get to know each other, right, you can see key signs of things that they're going to not be okay with. You got to look for the rejection part of it. You know what I'm saying? Because life, we always going to be in places and times where
codependency, you're not going to deal with rejection, though.
They're not.
And especially if you're a narcissist, you're definitely not going to deal with rejection.
Oh, when it comes to a narcissist and rejection, it's just like they have an allergic reaction. You be like, no. They be like, oh, like Mufasa.
Yeah, why would you tell me no?
And then you got to remember, like, well, why would I tell you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, like, with that situation, it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard.
Even kids with autism, you tell them no.
Yeah.
But see, Christian's different.
He very different, because, I mean, you taught him at a young age.
Because I've been telling that nigga, no, get a job. When you get a job, then you can get whatever you want.
Well, see, I just grew up, I tell people, we in a recession. You ask for something, let me tell you about the value of $1. You got to just give them the history of it. They don't be wanting to hear that. You know what I'm saying?
No, you absolutely. So rejection is just one of those. It can be good or positive. I mean, positive or bad. You know what I mean?
And I feel like
it's how you take in, how you emotionally, how you deal with it.
Right.
You can't emotionally now these days. Emotionally can't deal with it. In our era, it's just like you tell us now.
Yeah, we'll find another way.
I'll just go on to the next. You know what I'm saying? But at times it's different. And when I say different, I mean people are not emotionally regulated. And you're going to have to, and maybe we should talk about the red flags with that, because with rejection, before you reject that person, you can pretty much see some of those red flags.
You can. But I also think with rejection, right? I think the thing that we really miss when it comes to talking about rejection is it's okay to be rejected, right? But the thing of it is, if you're going to reject somebody, you got to be able to tell them up front why they're being rejected. And it has to be valid. And what I mean by valid, I'm talking about in certain situations, you know, sometimes it has to be valid.
Yeah, it's some situations it has to be valid, but some other situations, like if you're touching a girl and she says no and you keep going because you can't deal with that fucking rejection of no, that's the problem. It's common sense. No mean
Yeah.
no,
No
right?
mean no. Yeah.
Yes mean yes, no mean no. So if you are crossing boundaries and you can't deal with the word no, there's an issue.
Especially like if somebody don't like you and you into them and they telling you no, it's like, bro, look, go talk to your mom and daddy about it or whatever. Do whatever you got to do. But like, you can't force somebody to be with you. In the same way with females, you can't force nobody to be with you.
And and it's okay to reject people. I'm gonna tell you this now, men, women, whoever you are, if somebody approaches you and you say no, it's fine. Don't feel like you have to like, well, if I say no, this might happen, or he might not give me money. No, it's okay to say no.
And then also
No
like
means no.
rejection in the work atmosphere.
Oh God, that's even worse.
That's more complicated because sometimes it just depends on like if, excuse me, if somebody get a promotion over you
Hmm.
and you be like, well, I earned that promotion or whatever because I done all this stuff or whatever like that. And they just gave it to this person and they want to say this person more qualified because I may not have this degree and that degree. The rejection look real. The rejection is real there. But the thing of it is that like you got to take a step back and look at like how much the company took advantage of you.
Right. And look at your worth. They're using your worth. You don't even know your worth, but they know your worth. And so they're going to use you up.
And like I said, rejection look different for everybody. Sometimes people get hurt in their feelings when they get denied when it comes to like I said, sports, workplace, or whatever. And they be like, well, oh, they gave this to this person over me or whatever. Sometimes you gotta look at your environment and be like, you know what? Like you said, I know my worth. You got to ask yourself, what is my purpose? If your purpose is no longer needed or fits you in that environment, that's when you got to be like, it's time to move on. And you can give up. Look, I'm rejecting y'all now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we really have to process what rejection look like. Because even at the times where we think it's the worst in that moment because of how it makes us feel, sometimes it's the best decision for us.
It is like getting rejected from your college. Let's say you pick a favorite college and you've been banking on that fucking college. Getting rejected is not a bad thing
Nah, you right.
because maybe that college wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Or getting rejected, prime example, damn scholarships or like grants. That hits hard. You put in a lot of work for grants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But it take a lot of writing too.
yeah, I remember it was one of these grants. It was brutal. It was called Chicken and Waffles. Fuck, that was brutal. And I had to get everything down. It was for film. And then when I got a rejection letter, that hit hard.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I put in all this fucking work. I don't need this chicken nor waffle.
Well, you think about it the one thing that I think about when you mentioned that was, when we first started 293 Co. And when I was doing a lot of poetry,
Yeah.
and doing shows and everything. And when we had the guy from the organization, I ain't gonna even name the organization,
Yeah.
and where we pretty much got rejected when it came to, the final show. They rejected us. And the thing of it is that like it made us feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Because we looking at it like, wow, you came to us to help us get your organization flowing for the weekend because it was a huge event for kids. But then when it came to the final of like the show and the organization getting grants and stuff like that, we got rejected for even being a part of it. So, for us, it was like a huge slap in the face. We knew right then, this no longer serve our purpose. We know our worth. We out. But it was a huge rejection.
Yeah, yeah. Ugh, that was. I remember you and the guy was debating.
It was a tough pill to swallow because, everything that we did in that moment,
Mhm.
we did it because, you know what? Yes, this is something that is very important to us, but also, to be able to see kids grow into their own, talking about their mental health needs and stuff like that and being vulnerable, it was cool to be a part of that. But you needed us and then rejected us at the end when you got what you needed.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just like for us, it was motivation for us to be like, you know what? We need to do our own thing.
Yeah.
Because once somebody see where you going with something, they want to be a part of it until they no longer need you.
Well, they try to take ideas
Right,
and do all that stuff. But I mean, with that rejection, you just sometimes you got to ask yourself when you get rejected, okay, well, first of all, have compassion for yourself because
right,
I ain't gonna lie, rejection does hit hard. Sometimes depends on what it is you're
right,
going for, right? So sometimes you gotta have compassion and look back and say, okay, well, I did feel this way. I'm connecting with that, right? And then it's like, okay, what's a different way I can get what I need?
right.
Because shit, but I got rejected for chicken and waffles. I was like, well, and that's when I got that grant for. Right after that, I did another grant. I got the grant for the office space. So I was just like, fuck it. It works out. So rejection can be good. And it depends on how you look at it. And then also have compassion for yourself in a time of that. But a lot of you guys have to get emotionally regulated. I mean, you got to look at if you lash out being rejected or lash out because something didn't go your way, you're going to have it has nothing to do with that person, that project, their thing, or whatever it may be. You're going to have to sit back and look at yourself inner wise because if you can't deal with that and you can't emotionally regulate and just really put things together and say, okay, I got rejected. It's fine. I'll still survive. So,
No, you absolutely right about that. And that's something that I'm still working on still to this day because it's just like this. I be trying not to snap on people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like when you have a passion about something, but then you seeing that like one thing that I won't do,
mhm,
and you might go and ask me some questions about this, but one thing that I won't do
mhm.
at my stage of life now is compete for something against somebody else.
Oh yeah.
If you can't see that I've earned where I'm at and how hard I work and how consistent I've been and how loyal I've been to something,
Mhm,
I'll always finish what I started.
mhm,
But trust and believe, once it's done and completed,
mhm.
you'll never see me again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. With that being said, we want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Please go tune in to Apple, iHeart. We're pretty much on majority of the platforms. It's 293 Co. If you have any subject matter or anything you want to talk about, we're open to doing that and open to hearing. That being said, enjoy.
Peace.